pas. Mon terrain m'a San Pellegrino, les poulets d'en haut, je les ai grillés. Même si c'est la vie, t'es constituée, car entre les gens, mais c'est ce qu'il y a.
It's your boy Monty here, and welcome back to another episode of Vibe with Monty. And today is a different kind of episode. You know, it's over Zoom because my brother here, PHATHIZWE'S, he's all the way from Eswatini. Yeah, me. So I thought, you know what? Obviously, we all know what happened over the weekend and over the past week. Somalia played Eswatini, and I thought, let me get my brother down here on Zoom so we can speak about it and reflect on what happened the past week. But brother PHATHIZWE'S, introduce yourself to the people, and thank you for coming.
Oh, hello, everybody. My name, of course, has already been said. I am PHATHIZWE'S from Eswatini. I'm a sports journalist for Eswatini TV, which is the national broadcaster. And I cover more especially local football and, of course, the national team.
Of course. First of all, before we even start, congratulations on the win. Congratulations for
Thank you.
Thank you. But before we really get into it, I want the people to understand a bit about you and what you've had to go through in terms of where you started, where did journalism really start for you, and then obviously the situation you're now being a sports journalist. Like, why don't you tell the people your journey up until this moment?
Well, it's still a fresh journey, if I can put it like that. I started out in 2015 after completing my studies at Limpopo University. And then I started with an internship program at the same TV channel. And then I was brought in, continued as a sports journalist for since 2015, as I've already said. Well, I started there, and it was easy for me because I've always loved football. I've loved sport, but football has that special place, of course, because we always, like, almost, I would say 90% of the country we follow football. Everyone follows football, so it was easy for me to just to get in and do sports news. I've been doing sports news and it's been some time, and I also host a TV show for sport.
The people buy it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I also do that. I do, like, it's a sport program every Monday at 9. That's why I told you that we can only do this today. Because every Monday we have that show that I host. It's just strictly about football, local football to be precise, where we just talk. We have guests and all that. I do also that. And last year, December, I won journalist.
One second. Cut you out.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm still here. Sorry, you can hear me still.
Yeah. Now perfect. We're back. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, as I was saying, last year December, I won the best social media journalist of the year. Won an award. Yeah. Thank you. I think with COVID coming into play, I started being more involved in social media, where I try to update because the fans couldn't go to the stadium, so I tried to fill that gap. So I think it worked in my favor, and of course I was helping the general fans to stay abreast of what's happening in our local football. But more especially, as I've said earlier, I cover more local football.
That's fine. Now, listen, like, I remember when the draw was announced a few months ago, when I saw that it was between the Gambia or Eswatini. Obviously, a lot of people from the Somalia side would have wanted Eswatini because obviously the Gambia just had an AFCON, you know, and they played really well in the AFCON. So it would have been a much difficult task. Obviously, nonetheless, we got drawn Eswatini, and for me, it was an opportunity for me to research more because at that time, I didn't know where Eswatini was. I didn't know the country. I then learned later on that it used to be Swaziland, and then you guys changed the name from Swaziland to Eswatini. So I think that was where the confusion at the beginning was. But once I familiarized myself, then I was like, okay, let me learn about the individual players and Eswatini football, because obviously it's going to be a big game for both countries, you know? Like, obviously Somalia have never gone to an AFCON. I don't think Eswatini have gone to an AFCON before. Am I right?
No.
Okay,
no,
so
they've never.
It was obviously going to be a very big game for both of us. Now, obviously you've touched on a bit about yourself. On the game as a whole, when the draw was announced that Eswatini was going to be playing Somalia over 2 legs, what was your initial reaction?
Oh, we were excited as well. Thought like, okay, now we're gonna be playing Somalia. And when the draw was announced, I myself quickly went to check on the FIFA rankings and see what was happening. And I saw that you were 194, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
And
it was
immediately we were just confident that no, we cannot lose against Somalia. We have to beat Somalia. And we were cautious enough to know that Djibouti knocked us out in one of the qualifiers not so long ago. I think it was last year or that other year. But we had an encounter with Djibouti in 2015 and we defeated them comfortably, and they came back to beat us. So we were cautious of the low-ranked teams, as we are not as high as we would want to be. But we fancied our chances when we were drawn against Somalia, and we thought, oh well, we cannot lose against Somalia. We have to go through.
Of course. I'm sure, obviously, when the draw was announced, everyone from your side was happy because you got a lower ranked side, and everyone, like all of us Somali people, we were happy because it was either the Gambia or Eswatini. So it was obviously we all wanted Eswatini. But nonetheless, it was obviously we knew as people that it was going to be a very difficult game because this is the first time in Somalia's history that we were ever in a qualification for preliminary round, because obviously the previous regime and the football federation in Somalia, there was a lot of problems and corruption and a lot of things that didn't go in our way, especially with the civil war and stuff. So I think this was our first real opportunity to play competitive football. So we always knew it's going to be a big challenge, but Eswatini as a whole, like for the people that are watching this right now, quickly sum up like Eswatini football. Like what does the national team represent, and how successful relative to you guys has the national team been in maintaining the fans' expectations?
Well, I'll be honest with you. The fans' expectation with the national team is not, I wouldn't put it in above even. It's not, they're not so much excited about it anymore. There was a turning point where we're very optimistic of the national team, and every time the national team was about to play a game, everyone would be excited about it. There was that time when we played the likes of Djibouti. I think we even broke into the top 100 teams in the FIFA rankings. We at some point in the 90, somewhere there. So we were doing very well. Everyone was excited about the national team. We had a team, Babana Swallows was doing well in Africa. So most of those players were coming from that team, and they came into the national team and they were doing well. Everyone was excited for the national team. We have this regional tournament where the regional countries, it's called SADC.
Okay.
We've never won that. Yeah, it's a COSAFA tournament. It's called COSAFA, but it's played only by countries from the SADC region. So we coming from that tournament where we've been playing poorly, but from 2015 we started showing signs of improving, and we eventually won the bronze medal, which was the highest award we've won in that tournament. So we were very optimistic of that, and there were difficult games where we played. We were drawn in the same group with Nigeria, and we played to a goalless draw at home against Nigeria at the time where Obi Mikel was at his peak. They came here. I can say we're above them. Of course, I might be a bit biased because, well, of course, I'm a Swazi. But we looked better than them. And we managed to get a point out. Well, it was a 2-leg round, but we got a draw here at home. And we went back to Nigeria, where we considered 2 goals in the last, I'll say 5 minutes. And we had plenty of clear-cut chances where we could have buried at least 2 goals or 3 goals to change the complexion of the game, but we missed those chances. Well, small team mentality there, I could guess. But we were a better team. So at that time, what I'm trying to say, at that time, we were at the top, where everyone was excited. Even we were excited as journalists, and we were thinking, wow, our national team, which we call Sihlango, who was doing well, and we were excited about that. But over the past few seasons, because what happened after that, we had the coach then turned to be a politician. He was a he converted to be a politician, and he was voted in. He's currently the sitting minister for sports. The coach who was coaching the team back then. So after him came in your coach currently. Yeah, that's where everything went south. That's where everything went south, and we dropped even in FIFA rankings from 99 to 100 and something, 140 something. We were just down as after he took over. Because when Peter de Jong took over, he played 7 games, and he was able to win 1 game, play the draw, win 1 game, and he lost the rest of the game. So he had like what 14% winning percentage while he was the head coach of the country. But from there, we've never came back and say, okay, now the national team is performing again. Of course, I think the last COSAFA, was it the last or that one? The last COSAFA, we again won bronze. So the spirit in the team and the nation is again starting to be excited. But of course, currently, if you've found it when you were doing your research, you'll know that there is a political unrest that we are going through. Yes. So people who are for the change, they just do not care for the national team or anything that has to do with government and everything. So that has taken us back to the time where everyone doesn't care about the national team. We played Somalia, we won, we're going to the next stage. You'll expect excitement all around, but now it's been mixed reactions, if I can put it like that. Some, of course, there are those who are happy, who are just saying football and politics shouldn't be mixed together. Let's just appreciate the effort that the players put in. It's football. After all, we all love football, and we're gonna deal with the political unrest on the other side. But for now, let's just appreciate what the national team has achieved, because now we are in the qualifiers of the AFCON 2023. So I think on that aspect, slowly, but with the challenges of the politics, I'd say we are just getting there.
Of course. I think you touched on Peter de Jong. So obviously that is something that we're definitely going to talk about later on. But you also said something to do with obviously you're right. When I was doing my research, I definitely saw that obviously results started to go a bit down, and then obviously there was a bit of political unrest within the country. So obviously naturally that was always going to affect the football. And I think there's a lot of comparisons made with Eswatini and Somalia, because obviously Somalia had political unrest with the federation. There's always been problems with the federation, with the way they've handled players and the money that gets put into the football. That doesn't really go into the national team, for example, and structures like that. So there are a lot of similarities, and I can definitely understand from your perspective the frustration you might have as a fan, because at the end of the day, we're both fans of football. We're both fans of the countries that we watch and we support. So obviously I can understand where you're coming from. Now, obviously, we're going to take it back a week where the build up for the game was pre-game. So I would say around 24, 48 hours before the game started. Well, did you have any interaction with the players? Did the players tell you the mood of the camp? Like, what was the atmosphere like, them going into that first leg?
Well, before the team left, we had a media day where we visited them in training to see how everything was. So we talked to the coach, very positive coach, very calm. He's a calm coach. He's by profession, he's a soldier by profession. Yeah, and our team is dominated by players who are coming from the armed force teams, because we have 3 armed force teams in our league, where it's called the soldiers team, Young Buffaloes, police teams, which is Royal Leopards, which was competing in CAF Confederations Cup. They were in the group stages. And we have the correctional teams, which we call Green Mamba. So the team is largely dominated by players coming from those 3 teams. And then the other, because we have other 3 big teams in the country, they had 1 or 2 contributions to fill up, in other teams there and there. So the team is made up of that core players, because we had if not 7, from Buffaloes and 7 from Royal Leopard, which is a very huge number on its own. But when we arrived at the training base, the spirit was positive. You'll expect that though, because most of the players are coming from the same team. So they will relate better and with everyone and all that. And the players were signed from the other teams that the rest of the players come from. So the chemistry was healthy. It was there, you could see. And we did interviews with the coach. The coach is always calm and he just tell you straight, we're going there for a win. We want to make Eswatini happy. He said that and he usually say they will fight, but they'll fight for a win. If they have to bring everything, they'll do that. And as long as they get the positive results, that's always his line. You can almost preempt what he was going to say in his interviews, that there's only one thing they are going there to do. It's just to fight for the nation. They understand fighting for the flag because, I mean, as I said, they are soldiers. So of course they know what it means to represent the country. Yeah. So even the players, we talked to some few players because there are some few players who made their first collabs in the team. They were buzzing. They were excited about the collabs, and they say they want to make their mark in the national team so that when there's the next time the collabs are called, they want to be there. So I think we saw some few players in the game. One even assisted during the game, the first leg. He assisted a goal who was playing for the first time, and he's only 19. He's a high school going kid, and he's playing for the national team. So it means a lot to him. So there was that excitement. I even saw when there was that injury, that bad tackle from Somalian captain to the young player. Yeah, everyone came to protect him because they know he's a youngster. He's an upcoming player. So everyone, it was nice to see everyone coming in to protect him. See, it shows that the team is together. The chemistry is healthy. So I think that's a positive we took from the training base. That everyone seems like they are in the same page. They just know what they want, and they just know they understand the expectations from them.
Okay. I think what you said there with like the cohesion and the fact that a lot of players in the team, in the squad, come from similar teams. So, for example, you said that the military teams, there's a lot of players that come from those separate teams. So, 100%. I think even talking about Somalia for a second, like a lot of players came from so many different places. Then when they arrived, they didn't really get to know each other. There was not really a bond. Whereas you guys clearly had a bond because a lot of the players were playing with the same teams already, teammates at club level. So yeah, 100%. That's very true.
Let me tell you this, Monti. When the draw was made, we were all excited that we were playing Somalia. And as the build-up came close, as the build-up continued, I did an interview with Mohammed Salat.
Yes.
And I did. And when I was preparing for that interview, I did some research and I talked to him there and there. And he told me that there are only 2 players who play local football in Somalia. Football. The rest are internationals. And to be honest, I was a bit scared there. That, okay, Somalia has obviously prepared better than us, like in terms of the experience, the players that they have, like playing outside your country can change your perspective into football. They can change a lot, your attitude and all that. And vice versa, we only have 2 players who are playing outside the country.
Yeah, that's definitely something to look at. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. We have one playing in Angola who just moved in January. So it hasn't been a long time. And we have one playing in South Africa, and he's playing in the first division, not even in the top division. He's playing in the first division. And in the first division, he's not even playing for a team fighting for qualification. He's just playing for a mid-table team. So that scared me a bit. I was like, okay, we might have a problem. But I'll be honest with you. Of course, we're going to talk about him later, as you said. The only confidence that I had was that you are only coached by a coach that we know.
Yeah. Listen, I think in general, like I was doing research. You guys went to camp a lot earlier than what the Somali players went into camp. You know, camp only started for Somalia, I think, first or second week of March. So first week of March, really. So it was like already you guys have had that team bonding. You guys already played well together. You guys know each other, so it's much easier when you fly into training base. You good? Yeah, you good. You know, whereas us boys was like they're great quality players from different countries. When you bring them together, they have to start from the ground. Whereas you guys already know each other, so it's easier to play well.
It was, and of course the coach understood that because our league were behind because of COVID, so we started the league late November instead of August, that where we usually start. But the coach was smart enough to know to say to the football association, I'm gonna call up the team early. Then because he called a lot of players, like 30 in his first initial squad. He called like 30 players, and he said, if I can have per week, if I can have at least 3 days with the players, then they can go back to prepare for the league game with their teams for the weekend. And after the game, the last game on Sunday, please bring them back to camp. Let me be with them for those 3 days, and they'll return. Up until we were with 2 weeks or a week before. Yeah, I think it was 2 weeks before the start of the games against Somalia. So that's when they were in full-time camp. But before that, it was just getting them for 3 days, 2 days, depending on what they want to do with the team. So, and I think that worked with them, having them around in camp, having them stay together, train together for those few days. As you said, the chemistry was a lot better because the team now know each other. And most of them, they know each other from their teams. So it was easy for the coach to prepare for this game, I'll say. And they even managed to squeeze in a practice game against Lesotho.
I saw when I was doing my research as well that obviously I didn't know about that friendly, but I saw your last competitive game against Lesotho, and you guys did so well against them. You know, like you guys won the game, was constantly threatening throughout the game. So when I was doing my research and reflecting on Eswatini football, I was like, oh, okay, this is a difficult team because they have a lot of key strengths. You know, you're very physical team, a lot of long throw-ins, long balls. I think your left back, I don't know his name, his throws, oh my God.
He's actually playing as a winger. He's a winger, attacking wing. He's a winger. Fanelo Mamba, we call him Ota. He plays for the military team as well. I think that's one of his strengths, that long throws. Because if we get a throw at that end, we just take it as a corner kick. Just take it as a corner. And we know for sure the keeper can't go out for it.
100% it's a corner because I remember I had a very good friend of mine on the show a few weeks ago before he flew out to Tanzania to follow with the squad more closely. And he's like the media person, Somali athlete, shout out to him. But when he was doing the research and we was talking about it, I showed him the clip that guys like Eswatini are a very serious team with the way they play. They're very direct. Like they're gonna get at you.
Yeah.
And I remember the comparison that I made because obviously it's easy to say a lot of things, but sometimes people need to have like an idea of what they are like in their heads. So what I said was Eswatini are like 2008, 2009 Stoke City in the Prem. You know, you have the Stoke City, great team, very physical, direct team. You have Rory Delap taking the long throws. I said that is if he was to have a team profile, Eswatini, Stoke City, literally is a match.
Yeah. They play what we call here, we call it route one.
Route
one football. Just from the defense to the attackers. The midfielders will only be involved when we're trying to repossess the game.
Of course.
We just sort of, and we're using speedy wingers.
Yeah, 100%. I saw that during the game. I saw the midfielders, they were collecting every loose ball, every second ball, just collecting it, and then they just gave it to the attackers to let them do their thing. So I definitely saw that throughout the game. But talking about actually both legs, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with the first leg, and then we're gonna make our way after to the second leg. So on the first leg, when the game ended 3-0, what was like the first thing that came into your head? What was the first initial thought after watching the game?
I thought we should have scored more. I honestly thought we should have scored at least 5, at most 5, because one of our players, we missed a lot. We missed some few chances that could have easily been a goal. If you remember, the guy who scored the first goal, Bongosi Dlamini, who wore number 9, he could have scored a hat-trick on his own. Could have scored a hat-trick. He missed some clear chances, and he has always been like that. His decision making in the final third, for an attacker, I honestly believe he can do better, because he's got the pace. He can beat defenders, but that final third decision making, that last touch on what he has to do with the ball, I think it has been his downfall over the past few years, because he could have played abroad a long time ago with his quality, with everything, but it's his finishing that is letting him down. But I honestly, I felt like we could have buried these people. We should have scored at least 5 goals, because for me,
when I was watching the game, no, like everything you're saying, like I somewhat agree to a certain point, because there was a few points in the game where you guys looked a lot more dangerous. I think in the first 15, 20, I think it was a bit cagey from both teams, because I think both teams were figuring it out. I think it's like a cup final, when both teams they don't want to lose or concede a goal so early. But I think in that first half, I think early before you got your goal, I really believe that there was an opportunity for Somalia to attack. For us to attack Eswatini in this first opening half, we should have got at them. And I think when you guys got your goal around the 24th, 25th minute mark, when you got your goal, I think it kind of sucked the energy out. It's like we have like Somalia had a lot of the ball. You guys have an early attack. And then we're like, oh, that was a warning. And then you go up 25 minutes later and you get your goal, and it's like, oh, okay, now Eswatini can really sit back, soaking a lot of pressure and counter, which obviously ended up happening throughout the game.
The moment I saw our lineup, I saw the coach that was playing with 2 holding midfielders. One, of course, will have the responsibilities to go higher. I was like, okay, this coach doesn't know Somalia that much. So, because that's his formation when he's trying to study the opponents and see what they can do, how they can attack, and how he can react to that. So when I saw those 2 midfielders, I'm looking at the one who with the long throws, because he contributes a lot when defending. So our out and out attackers, it was the captain for the day in the first leg, and the number 9, who were told to stay a bit higher, just try to get the ball as high as they can. But the rest of the team, I was looking at the setup, and I thought, okay, hence in the first few minutes, we were just looking at you and how your weakness, your strength, where you can hurt us before we go in. Because in his mind, he had that, no, guys, we are playing away, so let's just try and control the game and see if we can find those spaces there with the long passes. Because if you look at our first goal, it was just, I think, about 3-4 touches from the back. It was pumped forward, and there was a pass to the striker, the captain, who made a run. The fullback made the run, and it was across inside the box. Then there was another player inside. So that's typically how we usually score. We don't usually score from nice build-ups and passes and all that. It's just to the wing, pace, bring back a cross, or bring back a back pass, and we have good number 10s, ball players, because the player who started the game has been doing well in the CAF Confederations. Yes, his team wasn't doing well, but he's been doing well these past 2 seasons. And the second player who came in and scored the third goal has been doing well at that position. So it's just a matter of a coin toss for the coach to choose anyone between the 2, because we've over the past few years we've had good number 10s. But on that game, I think the first few minutes of the game, as you're saying, you had control of the ball. You were moving the ball better than us, as a matter of fact, when the game started. And I knew when I was watching that we only need a goal. If we score first in this game, we can open the game up, because the biggest advantage we had over you guys, we were winning all the 50-50 challenges. Physically, we looked stronger than you. we were winning those first balls. When it's 50-50, I knew we were gonna get the ball. If it's 50-50, we're getting the ball. So it worked for us in that manner because physically we just look better.
100%. And I think even you touched upon it, like when you got your first goal, it was like, okay, now we got something to look after. Let them open up the game. Now Somalia, we had to come out, you know, and try to take the game to you guys. And then obviously in the second half, there was a lot of spaces open up. Like your second goal, you know, it was a mistake from our centre back, Sanyo.
Yeah.
And obviously that's something very uncharacteristic. Like I was very surprised when that second goal came in because I was like, wow, like he's normally the one guy that we can rely on. And when that happened, I said, okay, it's a tough game, but at 2-0, I honestly thought, even though like we do need to get a goal because the away goal, we need to have something going into the coming into your stadium. However, honestly speaking, when you scored that third goal, I was like, this is the tie is in my honest opinion, the tie is over. I think when you scored that third goal, and I think this is one guy that I highlighted. I think his name is Figueiredo, if I'm not mistaken. The winger, the right winger, Figueiredo. Is that his name?
Justice, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's playing in South Africa, that one.
Yes, him. When I was doing the research
Yeah.
of Eswatini, I saw him as a very dangerous guy. Like I thought, oh, he's gonna cause a lot of problems. But when I saw him not start, I was like, okay, now your coach has an ace up his sleeve. Like if the game needs to be stretched out, you can bring him on. And our fullbacks they were tired towards the end of the game, and you just used the pace of him. And look at that third goal. Like it was a long ball over to the wing, running down the wing and cut back, and then obviously, you know, you guys scored. But overall, now after that first leg, what was your feelings going into this into the second leg? Did you feel like that's it, tied done, we just need to look after ourselves, or did you think that there might be potentially a comeback? Who knows?
No. I honestly, I wasn't thinking of any comeback from you guys. I thought the game was just buried there and there because judging from what I saw in the first leg, the threat was very minimum for you to come back from 3 goals down and saying we can lose. It would have. Honestly, I told my colleagues as well that if Somalia happens to come back to this game and actually knock us out, the coach should just resign from that side. He shouldn't even come back as the head coach, as the head coach, because it couldn't have made sense, judging from what we saw in the first leg. The first leg, I think, summed up the expectations we had as a country when we were facing Somalia. And again, I'll repeat this. Every time I was thinking of Somalia coming back, then I remembered who's the coach, and then I relaxed and say, okay, well, Peter de Jong is the coach.
I think right now, I think since he's come up a few times, I think what we're gonna do is actually speak about Peter de Jong, because I think I initially was gonna say, you know what, let's cover the games first, but I think I, as Monti, want to understand what the Eswatini people think of Peter de Jong. What do you think of him, more importantly? And when I was doing my research of him, it was like he was at a lot of clubs, but for 1 year or a few games, like it wasn't consistent, and that was the only like red flag. But with Somalia, like the previous regime, like the previous people that was in charge of the federation, they were so horrible in looking after the squad and having a good coach and having all these things. When Peter came, it was like, at least we have someone, you know, like, you know, when you have no one for so long and no one that can really guide you, when someone else comes that has a bit of experience, maybe, then you're like, at least we have someone to look at, you know, like at least now we can start functioning as a football country, you know. But obviously, on to you. What do you make of Peter de Jong, and how was he when he was in charge of Eswatini?
As a coach, as a tactician, I'd give him, if on a scale of 0 to 10, I'd probably give him a 3 for an effort. To be fair, because I watched some of his training while he was still here. I would be lying if I would say I was impressed at any given time. The way we were playing, we were running like headless chicken. We couldn't play a proper game. And well, I'm probably somehow I'll say I'm a bit unfair because we once had a run-in with him after a game in a post-match press conference. I think we lost a game and we couldn't understand how. I think it was the game against Djibouti, if I'm not mistaken, because I think that was his last game. And he kept on giving excuses and totally different from what you saw in the field of play. So for me as a coach, he's a no-no. I wouldn't have him in my team any other day. And I do not wish he can come back to Eswatini and coach any team, even the lowest ranked team in the country. But if they can engage him as a TD or national team manager or whatever that position is called, where he oversees the national team, technical director of some sort. Because his professional approach to the game is what we were lacking before him. He came in and demanded a lot of discipline from the players. And I'll make an example, like our players in local football, they just don't care about diet, to be fair. They just don't care about that. Because when he first came in, funny story, when he first came in and he saw one of the strikers we have in the local league, he was carrying the goals, and he was watching him and he was like, okay, this is one good striker because he has everything. He's got height, he's got physique, and he's comfortable on the ball as well. And the young was actually impressed watching him while he was still trying to figure out Eswatini football. He was impressed. Then he called them for camp. They trained for a week and he released them for a weekend. And thing is, the players were subjected to something they didn't understand when they came in, because the diet changed. They were told what to eat, not just your heavy food when they're going to bed and all that. Everything was planned. He even hired a nutritionist for the national team, which is something we didn't have and we don't have. Now we don't have again a nutritionist who was taking care of the diet of the team, the way they recover.
Sorry to interrupt you, but is that not like a benefit? You know, like similar to I don't know, my example many years ago is when Arsene Wenger came into the Premier League. You know, Arsenal team, there was a drinking culture, there was a bad diet, and he changed all of that. So is that not a benefit for Eswatini?
That's why I said, as a tactician in the field of play, tactically, he's not up there. But as a team manager, now I'm talking him. Exactly, someone who'll bring the changes in terms of the behaviors of the players. That's where I think he benefited us the most. You understand? Because he always made sure to monitor the weight of the players, to the point, the way he's disciplined. The player, when he arrived, he said he's the best player in the country. He dropped him from the national team because he gained, I think, about 3 kg over the weekend. And he said, no, you cannot do that in my team. He actually dropped him, and everyone was like, whoa, wow. And our best goalkeeper at that time, he was a bit heavy. He dropped him and said, no, you cannot play for the national team looking like that. Lose weight, be in shape. And this side, we're praising him, he's the best, and we're vouching for him to the national team and saying, no, this player is very good. We want him in the national team. And he said no, because of all that. So if we kept him as that team administrator or something like that in that position, I think he could have changed a lot for us, not on the field of play, but in terms of expectation, because I am pretty much confident that was going to be transmitted back to the clubs for every team to meet those certain standards, because I think it's something we're lacking at. But as a coach, that's why I try to separate the two. Him as a coach, I wasn't impressed at all. And the way he engaged with everyone, it didn't make make him a lot of friends, but of course he wasn't here to make friends, but to work, and it didn't work out for him. As a team manager, he can be perfect. He can be perfect, and I would literally vouch for him for that position if it was to be advertised in local football, because that aspect of professionalism we're lacking at, he came in with it.
Okay, I think like you saying he's more of a director of football and administrator rather than a manager is something that we as Somali people would wanted, because I think what is very important to understand is, especially with us, I don't know if you know this, but obviously we have a new federation president, we have a new federation team, and they are overseeing like everything within Somali football, and they're trying to look at changes. You know, Somali Premier League, for example, back home in the motherland, Somali Premier League hasn't been going on for the last 7-8 months because of COVID. So that's why a lot of these players are like foreign boys, because the local boys haven't been playing. You know, I think there's only a handful of players. One was there, like you said, 2 people selected, one of the goalkeepers and one of the defenders, or one of the outfield players. But as a whole, even us as Somali people, like they understood that we can't pick you because you haven't been playing. So we have to pick the foreign boys that have been playing week in, week out. I think where the reaction of the fans split is some people wanted a Somali coach and some people wanted Peter de Jong, because Peter de Jong has a history of improving the structure of a country or a club. So right now, Somali football, we don't have a youth setup. We don't have under 18s. We don't have we don't have any of that. We only have the first team. So obviously, after this Eswatini game, was one of the big things that was proposed was we're gonna have a youth setup where the young footballers of Somalia, the young footballers of the diaspora pool, can all have an opportunity to represent Somalia at a younger age range level. You know, like the youth under 17s, under 18s, under 19s, under 21s. You know, like under 15s. Like right now, AFCON, there's different levels. You have the main AFCON, then you have the age range. So you have the under 21s and all the younger kids where they can play. Well, same with the World Cup. Same with every level of football, every competition. There's always a youth version. So when we don't have a youth setup, what did we expect? You know. So I think when he came and became the manager, it was more of a sense of, yes, he's here to try and improve results, but I think what we needed as people is a structure. Like Equatorial Guinea, for example, they had a plan, a 5-year plan, and said, we're going to have this system. We're going to create a smaller scale version of what Germany did with the World Cup when they won the World Cup. Those players that won the World Cup were playing at under 15s, under 16s. They all knew the same type of play, you know. And then what happened eventually, they got to the World Cup in Brazil, won it. Obviously, Equatorial Guinea, when they got to AFCON, this is their first ever qualified AFCON when they're not host. So what did they do? They have the same type of plan, smaller scale, but the same plan of we need to have a structure. And once we have this structure over a few years, that's when we can really be competitive. Somalia, on the other hand, we have not been competitive for the last, since I've been alive, I've never seen like structure or anything like this. I think there was a few times where they had under 21s in like 2020, stuff like that, but it was nothing consistent, you know. And I think the problem was there was a lot of corruption going on. So what ended up happening was when Peter came in, they gave him a 1-year contract, but they said within this 1 year, once the Eswatini game is over, whether we win or lose or whatever the case is, we need to actually focus on the youth because they are the next generation, you know. Messi, Ronaldo, they're not playing forever. They're gonna retire. One day there's gonna be a new Argentine star, a new Portuguese star, like that. So when you tell me Eswatini first-hand experience of Peter de Jong and how he was from beginning to end, I can understand exactly what he's saying, and I think the fans are also kind of upset because the Somali fans have high expectations, and I think they want their team to be successful, but we all know that we need to have the foundations. Well, if you don't have the foundations, you will not succeed. And when I was doing my research on Eswatini have a youth setup. They have their under 17s, they have the under 9, they have your reserve football, you have your Olympic squad, you have your youth. and then you have your first team. So now everyone's like, when a young Eswatini boy is playing football and he gets called up for the under 17s or under 19s, he can be like, one day I want to be in the first team. You know, that's his target. So he's obviously going to work hard to get to that target. Whereas us, you know, there's no system. So I personally wanted a coach that can foresee all of this, but have structural change to the country. So, like what you're saying, the diets, for example, obviously that if he had that professionalism from the national team, that would have transcended to all the clubs in the Eswatini to say, "Yo, guys, pick up the regime, pick up your professionalism. Otherwise, your players won't get selected." So I can definitely understand everything what you're saying.
Yeah, and I do think if you can support him enough in that aspect, forget about the immediate result. Forget about that. Just concentrate on the long term of it. Because if you're talking long term, it's something I would say you can see on paper and say, okay, there's an actual plan for Team Eswatini in terms of development, or for Eswatini as a country, in terms of the structures, development structures you're seeing, the under 15, the under 17 and all that. But I do not think it's been taken care enough, because they just don't care where the players end up at. They just there to play and say they fulfill the mandate from FIFA that they should be development structures and all that. But do they actually care for the players? I wouldn't say we do that as much, because I'm looking at that team that was playing in against Somalia. If you look at those players, honestly, I think there is only one, if not two players, well, I think three with Justice Figueiredo, who came through the development structures. For a country that will confidently say they have a development structure, those are not good numbers. Because our players, I've always complained about this on my social page, that our players, they are at their best when they are 29, 30. And we sing their players 28, 27, that's when we sing their best. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, we do not know where they are. They're just average players, you see. But when they start getting old in football terms, like when they hit 28, when they hit 29, 30, that's where we see the best of them. Even Peter de Jong talked about this, our striker, and he's a top striker. Even in local football currently, he's leading in the goal scoring chart. He's 30, 31. See, that's when we sing the best of him. That's when everyone is talking about him. He started playing well. He started getting international attention when I think it was already 28, if not 27, where he was getting the goals. So you see, that's the problem. And if you will say you have the development structures, that shouldn't be happening, right? You should be getting these players, saying you have a 20-year-old, 23-year-old in the national team, playing game in, game out, dominating. And if you want to check his progress, you're seeing, okay, he was there with the under 15, he was there with the under 17. Now the under 20, 21, the under 23, he was there. Now he's with the senior team. You're actually seeing the progress of the player. It shouldn't be just one special case, say, okay, in the group of players, the group of 200 players we had in the junior leagues, only one plays for the national team currently. You can't call that development, right? It's just not. So I'm saying to you, if you support de Jong enough and you give him the clear mandate on what he has to do in terms of setting up the structures, because his background says even in the Netherlands, he was working with junior teams. He started out with junior teams, and I think he got his big break in big teams in Africa because, well, I don't know why, if he's not proven, we're already giving him a big job. But the point is, he knows how to deal with development players. So if you give him those structures and say, please, while you're still gonna play some occasional games with the senior team, but can you set up a clear-cut structure for the development side of it. So even if you leave tomorrow, someone will get the blueprints and see what we were trying to do in long term, because
100%,
you cannot have
100%.
shortcuts in football. You cannot have shortcuts in football. You have to have a proper plan.
Of course, and I think that dives greatly into what I wanted to ask you, which was in Eswatini football, is there like a few exciting prospects to keep an eye out, for example, that you and the local fans are excited about when they play?
Yes, we actually have quite a few, and some of them are playing for the big teams. If well, the standard, of course, for obvious reasons, we are in the semi-pro. We're in the semi-pro level right now. But if we have, because we have few players who are playing for the big team. The player I was talking about, who was playing his first game for the national team, he's only 19, playing for Young Buffaloes. Young Buffaloes is one of the biggest team in the country. In terms of in the recent history right now, they've been winning trophies. So he's playing for that team and he's playing week in, week out. Something you'll have and see, okay, this one is future prospect. And if we had proper agent, he should be even being considered being sent out to other countries where the level of football is better. But we do have other players. There are few who are playing for the big teams, but we've had problems with dealing with them in terms of man management, because some of them, once they are playing for the big teams, they got the attention from everyone, and of course the ladies. Well, we cannot deny that. We cannot deny that. Once they get that to that level, they get it to their head that they are superstars. Then they start misbehaving. They start drinking alcohol. They miss trainings. They do all sort of things. Then the performance drop. We currently have one player who everyone was excited about. He could have easily been one of our best player ever when we look at his potential, but he's nowhere to be seen, and he hasn't played in the past few games. He's just not up to the standard in terms of professionalism. He can't handle the fame that came into it, because he's playing one of the biggest team in the country, Bafana Highlanders. I think if you were gonna rank them, there's Bafana Highlanders, Bafana Swallows, and Monti, the big three. We call them the big three. He's playing for one of those teams. We had one of the players when he's playing from Bafana Swallows. When Bafana Swallows was playing, like, they went, I think, 2 seasons without suffering any defeat in local football, and they were winning games in Africa. The 2 seasons running made it to the group stages of the Confederations. Then the following season they made it to the group stages of the Champions League, which was a first for a Swazi team to achieve that. And the boy I'm talking about was key for them, very key. And everyone was talking about him leaving the country anytime soon. Leaving the country. He never left. Started drinking, started going out, started doing all bad things. Dropped in form, dropped in the team, left the team attitude-wise. So I'm trying to say is, as a country, we're facing that challenge. Our players are not able to handle the fame that come with playing football, because, as I said earlier, people are crazy about football in this country. They love football. And if you play football, and if you play for the biggest teams in the country, you're going to get the attention. It's up to you how to deal with the attention, because honestly, when you get that kind of attention, everyone want to be associated with you. So they'll usually call the players, say we're having drinks over the weekend, and drinks means only alcohol, not just your sweet beverages. It means alcohol. So, even the fans that claim to love the players, they are the ones who are destroying them, but they just don't care about it, or they're just too ignorant of it. But the thing is, they're the ones who are killing the players. And of course, the ladies, they want the attention of the players. They want to be associated with the top players. So that's been the downfall. That's why we'll see our players maturing at 28, because what happened is the other teams, those players that are not paid much attention to, they'll develop, but because they do not have development basics, they hit the right form at age 28, they move to the big teams, they are called for the national teams. But if you check back their progress, we do not know about them at age 24. We do not know where they are playing at age 23. We have one player who made his debut against Somalia on the second leg. 2 seasons ago, he was playing Super League football, which is 1, 2, I think 3 divisions from the top, from the Premier League. And now he's playing for the national team. If you look at the junior teams, nowhere to be seen. Never played for the junior divisions. So that thing, that attitude, that mentality you get from being the setup of the national team, it helps you when you get to the senior team, because already the junior teams, they play outside the country, they play against other countries. So it gives them that idea of what to expect. But if you're gonna take a player and jump straight up to the top division, some will succeed and some will struggle. And you can literally tell that if this player had gotten that opportunity, he could have done better.
100%. And I think what you're saying there is like something that I was really confused about when I was doing my research, because when I looked at the squad, I think the average age was like 28, 29, like it was in the late 30s.
Yeah.
So I was very confused with when I was like, okay, they're much older team, they're much more physically demanding team. I was like, where are the young stars? Like, I couldn't find a lot. So I think what you just said there just makes it completely make sense. So I think the opposite effect is what's happening with Somalia, for example, where our squad is relatively young, and the experience of African football and international competitions is not at the same level as Eswatini, for example. Because at least Eswatini, you guys have been in previous qualifiers or preliminary qualifiers in the past. You guys play regular football. So I think that was where the two sides differ. It was literally the complete opposites. You know, we had most of the foreigners, you had most of the locals. We had the younger squad, you guys had the older squad. So I think, yeah, exactly. It was so interesting to look at the different dynamics of before obviously the game happened, and then obviously seeing how both legs turned out. Obviously there was an issue with broadcasting in Europe. Like in Europe, I couldn't find an actual link to watch the game. I think I had to go cable TV, and I caught the second half of happily. But when I saw the first leg and then the second half of the second leg, every minute that I watched, it came to my head that Eswatini are playing for the win, whereas Somalia are playing. They're playing football. They're not playing to get the win.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that was the difference, because I mentioned this a few weeks ago. I said there was a real worry that we might be better than Eswatini on the ball, but Eswatini might have the game experience to know how to get the win. And I think you guys looked way more dangerous attacking when we had a lot of ball, but we wasn't really creating a lot.
Let me tell you this, Monti. I can almost promise you that 3 years from now, if it happens, we play Somalia, you might actually beat us.
Why do you say that, though? I want to know your reason. Why do you say that?
This is the same reason I'm telling you. This is the same reason you've just said. We playing for a win, and you building. You understand? We care about winning in the moment, and we do not do that enough. But we haven't changed the mentality. We've been doing that. As I told you earlier when we started this interview, that in 2015, if I'm getting my facts right, we played Djibouti and we scored 6 goals against them in the first leg. 6 goals. 4 years down the line, Djibouti came and knocked us out of, I think it was the Chen qualifiers. They came in and knocked us out. They actually defeated us away 2-1, and they came and played a draw at home when we were playing at home. And almost the players that were playing, new players. And we're still using the same old players, same players. See, there's actually progress with the other countries, but with us, there's no much progress, and to have confidence that say, because you usually hear players saying, I'll take for instance Barcelona. They're talking of Barcelona saying next season or the other season they'll be untouchable because they know that their young players will have matured by then. They have a plan, but it's the opposite in this side. We don't care for the age. If you're 33, you're still playing, please, by all means, come to the national team. If we have 5 of that, it's okay. By all means, come join the team, which is exactly what's letting us down, because we're going to win today against Somalia. When we start playing teams that are ranked higher than us, we lose. How do we fix that? Oh, no, we just keep repeating the same thing. Fix it. Do something about it. Show signs of improvement. No, they don't care enough about that. They just we keep doing the same thing that we've been doing like 20 years ago. No progress, no what. You see, we're gonna get lucky some other games.
Even you said you have players that sometimes in their early 20s, mid 20s, you don't see them, and then 28, 29, all of a sudden they're here.
That's where you see them. You know what's funny? in the regional tournament, they invited as guests Senegal to play in the tournament. Senegal brought their under 23 or under 20, under 21, but only players who are playing in Senegal, no internationals, no what. We brought our best squad. We brought our best, the squad, almost funny enough, you see the players I'm talking about, I think this tournament was last year or that other year, because COVID has messed up the routine and all that. So
I think it was 2021, where was it 1-1 with the True?
No, it was actually 2-0. We're leading 2-0.
Oh, okay.
And they came back to equalize, and we lost on penalties.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, our best team was defeated by the under 21 from Senegal. Do you think then that these boys, 2 years, 3 years from now, or from 2021, they will struggle to beat us again? Definitely, they will not.
Exactly,
they will not
and I think what you're saying, yeah, is like, it's so like, the last 2 legs, and I think a lot of people from Somalia and Somali people can agree. We said we just want to win, but I think sometimes the mindset of us fans can be what lets the team down, because sometimes when the expectation is so high and the realistic situation with the squad isn't really looked like, Somalis, we speak of the potential. So we know the potential of these players is top. Like we believe in our lifetime, like, I'm only 22, but I believe like in the future years that the squad that we see, what we played against Eswatini, they will gain experience. They will gain, and then you have the Somali Premier League players that are playing come to the squad. That means the overall squad will lift. So I'm not worried in the future about our development, because the development of the youngsters is actually very important. Like if I'm being totally honest, I was very worried about this actual tie. Eswatini 2 legs. I thought, oh, this is going to be a difficult one because they are way more experienced than us. We was 100% the underdogs. But the one thing that I took from the game is, whatever happens, this is experience. Whether it's good experience or bad experience, it's still experience. So the next qualifier that we play in 2 years' time, for example, for AFCON 25, those qualifiers, we would have known what happened against Eswatini and make sure that those players understand, don't do the same mistakes next game. So I'm not worried about like our boys right now. Like one of our strikers, he's 21. Asanio, he's the captain. He's in his mid-20s. He's like 24, 25. You have the CDMs. They're like 20. The oldest player is probably 27. Everyone else, they're like 22, 21. There's a couple of teenagers in the squad. So there is a lot of youth in this squad. So in the future, if everything goes well in terms of the development and the planning like you said, the structure, so the people have a blueprint. You know, if all of those things do well, I'm not worried in the future where we will progress into a bigger side and much more competitive. I just hope the things once these players go, who's the next crop of players? You know, that's what I'm looking at. I'm already looking at down the line. Do we have under 21s? You know, Senegal brought their under 21s and showed you that our youth is still good. You know, all Nigeria, Senegal, the North African countries like Egypt and Algeria, all the big African countries have youth, and they every tournament they go play in the under 21s AFCON, their under 19s World Cup. They perform very well. Why? Because they are getting tournament experience as teenagers, as children, as youth. So when they go to the men's side and they play first team football and represent the proper national team, it'll be much easier for them, you know? And that's why, like this game, I look at it and say, yes, we've lost, but it now gives us the opportunity to look at the bigger issues and adjust it. Because even if we won, let's say in a fantasy world, we won. Okay, we now go into the qualification of AFCON. Let's say we get a big country and we lose, like we get Nigeria, for example, and we lose 6-0. Is that really helping us? Not really, because
No.
why we don't belong there. We're not ready yet. You know, I want to go and tackle the qualification when we're ready. When we're ready, we can talk and be like, okay, we can bring our resources to the table and say we deserve to be here. Right now, I think it was very early, and I think it's too soon for us to, like, you guys deserved it. You guys go on to qualification for AFCON 23, and obviously it's up to you guys to decide how you want to take it.
That's exactly what's going to happen to us. We're going to the group stages now. We're going to be humiliated. That's a given. We got very little expectations from the group stages. I don't even know the draw as of yet, but you know for sure that you're going to get one strong nation because of the seeding and all that.
You would have been, one of us would have been pot 4. So you would have had a big 2 countries at least, you know?
Exactly. That's exactly what's going to happen. And we're going to get humiliated, come back, we do the same thing. Not trying to fix what went wrong. No, we just don't care enough about that. We're just going to go back again and call another team and go play against Eritrea, against Sao Tome, maybe get a win, get something. We get excited overnight. It's gone, just like that. We're going back. Same thing, same rotation, same thing. We repeat. Unfortunately, we repeat the wrong stuff. If we were repeating with the development structures, if we tried with the development structures, say we're going to play, I'll say we're playing against what country? Zambia, who have shown signs of progress over the past few years, but then even them, they lost the plot. But if you start playing with the stronger nations, with your younger boys, you have a plan. You're saying, boys, you prepare the players mentally. You're saying, boys, let's go take the 3 knots, 5 knots from Ghana. But after that game, you won't be the same. If you take that positively, if you prepare mentally and say, forget about a win, focus on the performance of the team, you're going somewhere. If you start saying you want to win, but you're not doing enough to win, that should just tell you that you are just playing. You're only playing because you're getting money from FIFA. FIFA is giving you money, so you have to participate in this game. But besides that, what are you doing for football? Because we also have a new executive of football administrators in the country, the FA. They made a lot of promises when they were campaigning, because they had campaigns and all that. They called the member association who had the right to vote in the media. They came, we asked some questions. They promised heaven and earth for our football. Time to deliver. It's been a year and a half now. It's almost 2 years. They've done literally nothing. We literally where we were the past 3 years, 4 or 5 years. Literally, in every aspect. Of course, everyone is hiding behind COVID, saying, oh, COVID did that, COVID did that. Of course, we accept that COVID came in and made some difficult changes that we didn't prepare for before. But what have you done to counter that? Because if you, the administrator, we want to believe that you paid to think above us in terms of football administration, in terms of the policies. Your mandate is to improve the standard of football, is to improve football in the country. And the one way they measure football in that particular country, it's through the national team. If the national team is not up to standard, no one will take you serious. We're struggling to export our players to other countries, because the first thing they look at the FIFA rankings and say, where is Eswatini? They'll find Eswatini outside the top 100 and say, if they have good players, why are they not in the top 100, for instance? Are they good enough? Because I don't know in Somalia how much is used, this JUJU, black magic and all that.
Oh no, they're very much against it. They're very much against it.
Oh, honestly, you're lucky. You're lucky, because that's the thing. I've sometimes said that on my page, that we actually do not even know if our players are that good, or the JUJU the black power is just good. Because we've had I'll call them the cream of the crop. They left for South Africa. They couldn't make it even in the first division. They came back home. A season or two was enough. And when they were playing here, no one could get any closer to them. See, that Babanisado's team was so good that they just defeated everyone in their way. As I said, they went 2 seasons without suffering any defeat, right? Which said they were good. Like 2 full seasons, they didn't know anything.
Back to back,
losing any game. You see, we exported them to South Africa and say, okay, this is our best players. If they go there, they're gonna make it. I promise you. They are playing back home. They are playing here. They couldn't make it, because we do not know if they were that good at their peak, or it was just the black power.
I think it's something that surprises me, because I don't know too much. I'll be lying if I said anything. I knew anything about Eswatini Premier League. Like, I don't know, and I think it's something I definitely want to do is learn about the countries that Somalia play. I want to learn about their Premier League. You know, like I understand our Premier League. I understand the levels that are in our Premier League. I understand the problems, but also the good things. But for example, Eswatini's Premier League, like, I don't know too much about it, but from what I've gathered over the past hour or so talking to you and understanding this whole situation, is that you guys have your big three and you guys have players that are playing very well in your country, but as soon as they go abroad to another country like South Africa, for example, where they have very good level of football and they're struggling to even make that second tier, not even the Premier League, but the first division, it's like, surely what's going on? And I think with that, the only thing I can relate to that with the Somali players is, in Somalia, the Somali players, some of them are good enough to play in America, some of them are good enough to play in Europe, and some of them do. Like, I remember like a few boys, they trialed at European clubs, and it was unfortunate because of when they were trialing, COVID struck, so they couldn't stay there permanently. They had to go back. And I think when the league closed, and it closed for several months of no football, obviously that's going to affect all the players. And I think this is why the federation took majority foreign players to play for against you guys. But one thing that definitely, like, I look at is, we definitely have the quality of players that, you know, like, some of our players play MLS, some of our players play in the lower levels of England, but England is still very hard to get. You know, we have the Premier League, the Championship, League 1, League 2. Some of them are playing conference, some of them are playing, you know, a bit lower down, but it's still very competitive. Some of them, we have a player that plays for the reserve teams of the, I think it's Minnesota, one of their youth setups. He's playing as a goalkeeper. We have a lot of players in good clubs and good professional setups around the world, whether it's America, Canada, or Europe, or Australia. However,
I've-
the one issue that we always talk about is African football is different to what they play. They don't play African football. And I think we even saw this in the AFCON. A lot of the European stars struggled to get into AFCON. It took them much later as the tournament progressed, you know. Like everyone thought Salah would have the competition of his life because he's doing so well at Liverpool. But he didn't do a lot. Only against Morocco did he turn up, really and truly. And Sadio Mane, everyone thought, oh my God, he's gonna set the world alight. He's gonna set Africa alight. But even he took a bit of time to adapt because he was playing in England for so long. And I think that's one thing that I always tell the boys and I always tell everyone: African football is different. It's not the same as European football or American football. It's not the same. So I think this is why you guys had so much of an advantage. You get it, but nah, like hearing you say everything, it definitely has made me more aware of your situation and has made me I've been able now to compare the two and say, oh, you know what? Like I'm actually not too disappointed anymore. Like there's hope for the future for us.
Yeah, definitely there is hope for the future. It's just I am the one who's worried about our future because we do not have a concrete plan on what happened next. If this group of players fail, what happens? Where to? From we've played Somalia, we won, but where are we going from there? What happens after that? Because we've played, we won, and then what's next? How are we making sure we're winning the next game? We're doing better in the next game against the strong opposition. So that's my biggest worry. But otherwise, I'm more confident of your team doing better in future than we can do in our future. Yeah.
Okay, but listen, I think you've said so many things, and I think you've definitely made me more educated of Eswatini football. I definitely wish you all the best for AFCON 23 qualification. I'm definitely going to keep an eye out on the draw and see who you guys get. And we'll definitely be in communication in the future to see how you guys are doing. I really appreciate you coming down, jumping on Zoom today and having this interview with me. Obviously, guys, this is very different. Obviously, this isn't the usual sit down in the studio and have a guest. This is very different. But obviously, I had this opportunity with my brother, and I thought, you know what, let me bring this type of content, give you guys this interview so you guys can understand how Eswatini are feeling after beating Somalia and progressing and the futures between both countries. So I do thank you, brother. I really appreciate you giving me your time. And if there's anything you want to say to the camera, last message for the people, go ahead.
Well, I can only say for the Somalian people, there is something they can look forward to. You're looking at that squad and you're looking at if they want to judge the game we've played against you guys, they should just use the second leg, because I think you were much better in the second leg. You showed what you're about, what you want to do with the national team. And for every Somalian, that result shouldn't make you give up about the national team. And I think now with what I've been getting from Monti is there's a future for the team. There's a future for the national team. There's something to be excited about. If you're using your young players as early as this, giving them the opportunity to try out in Africa, to see how Africa is about, that's the best route you can take. That's the best route you can take. Yes, you can have the players playing in the top divisions in Europe. The name will carry some weight when you play in other countries who do not have international players, but there's nothing better than proper planning, proper development, proper idea, knowing what you want. So for your country to be doing that, I envy you guys. I just wish Eswatini was doing that as well, having a plan and saying we're giving ourselves 5 years. In 5 years, we want to achieve that. And if your country can do that, I promise you the next time you won't even be concerned about Eswatini, because I've been doing this for the past 4, 5 years, 7 years. I know we're going to be in the same position even 5 years from now if nothing changes. But for you guys, if there's anything to look forward to, is your national team, is the future of the players. If you have under 21 players already dominating the national team, playing in, and you're counting on them, I think you have something on your hands.
Thank you very much. Obviously, guys, my brother's socials will be going up throughout the screen, so go check him out. He's obviously, like he said in the beginning, a sports journalist in Eswatini. Make sure you put a thumbs up in the video. Make sure if you want to see more different types of content with different African journalists, comment down below. Make sure you subscribe. Thank you for getting me to 500 subscribers. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you very much. But this is a great episode. It's been a great episode. Thank you for giving me your time. But till next time, see ya.